Okay, my first question is for Ty Bree. So you first met John Lewis when you were 10 years old, and I want to know, how did you even know he existed? How did you get to know John Lewis?
Well, it all started in the third grade.
Third grade. So you were like 8?
Yes.
Okay.
And there was a school musical about Black History Month. So I was starting to get interested in rights, civil rights. And so I was starting to get curious. So I started to read books and research. And I found Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, and John Lewis.
Yeah.
And they all had a connection that they all was fighting for civil rights.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to meet Martin Luther King Jr., but my teacher, told me that he has passed. So my grandma gave me the next best thing, which was John Lewis.
Yeah.
So
John Lewis knew Dr. King, didn't he?
Yes, and that's the reason why I met him, because I wanted to know somebody and meet somebody that was close to him and participated in the civil rights movement. So my grandma said, you call him and I'll take you. So I was starting to call him.
So she told you to call John Lewis's office?
Yes.
Love that. And you're like 8 at this point?
Yes.
8 or 9, 10.
And
okay.
So she wrote this little paper for me, and I was sitting there reading it, and he was too busy doing what he did best, getting in good trouble. So she took me anyways to Selma, Alabama to commemorate Bloody Sunday. So I was holding a sign that says, you taught me how to be courageous, John Lewis. And out of the crowd, they picked me. The Capitol Police picked me, and they put me next to the stairs. And then he walked down, he shook my hand, he hugged me, and he changed my life.
That's so awesome. And I love that the cover of the book has you with that sign right there. It's great. Oh, I love it. So I'm curious, Andrea, you write a book about Ty Bree. Did you know him? How in the world did you hear, how'd you meet Ty Bree?
Well, I didn't know, I had never met Ty Bree before the book. But I was watching the funeral of John Lewis. And here comes this remarkable young man reading John Lewis's favorite poem, Invictus. And I was getting goosebumps, and then I kind of followed the coverage of Ty Bree meeting John coming out of the back of the church, Regina Bell singing, It was otherworldly. What are the chances? Speaking as a parent, I'm always trying to help my children, meet notables and pursue their dreams. But what are the chances that this young, modern activist would be driven 7 hours with his grandmothers and would really make contact with John Lewis? It was a dream. I was watching a dream come true. Yeah. And so was my editor, Diane Hess, at Scholastic. She was watching, and she was kind of in touch with me like, do you believe this? And we both kind of had the same thought at the same time, which is that Ty Bree's story parallels the story of John Lewis himself. When John Lewis was a young person, he wanted to meet his hero. He wanted to meet Martin Luther King Jr. and wrote to Martin Luther King Jr. And so Because of You, John Lewis really chronicles the two stories coming together. And then I reached out to Ty Bree's school, who put me in touch with his amazing family, and here we are.
I love it. I love it. Now, the story that you've written could have been just a real narrative. It could have been once upon a time there was a young man named Ty Bree, and then tell the story. But you don't tell it quite that way. So tell us about how you tell the story, and if there's, what's different. It's not a typical narrative.
Yes, so Because of You, John Lewis, it's written in verse, and again, it parallels these two stories. So as a writer, my thought was, how do you tell it in a different way? How do you take two separate journeys and weave them? So it is told in verse, and because it felt like, again, the experience was a miracle coming together, I wanted to convey the complete unlikely yet miraculous event that had occurred. And also really inspire young people and say, you can do this. You know, here's this young man who was inspired by his family to write a letter to your hero. And I really wanted to do that through poetry and a sense of musicality and a read aloud quality for young people.
Nice. I like your use of the word musicality. It's great. So you said you saw him on television at the funeral reading a poem. So Tybri, tell us about that poem.
Invictus, Unconquerable. The Lewis family invited me to read for the homecoming. And so when my grandmas figured that out, you know, we had to be right on it. So I was learning, I was reading it, and I was starting to get curious, like, what does this actually mean? And why is it John Lewis's favorite poem? Because if it's John Lewis's favorite poem, it has to be good.
Yeah.
So when I looked it up, it is a great example of John Lewis's life.
Yeah.
The quote, "I'm the master of my fate, and I'm the captain of my soul," is just so powerful to me.
Yeah.
And really what it's saying is, I control my fate and my destiny.
Yeah.
And words are just so powerful.
Yeah, they really are. They really are. I have a little surprise for Andrea and Tybri and the rest of you. So as you know, the Library of Congress is the largest library in the world. And as I was preparing to have the conversation with these guys, I was doing a little bit of research, and I too looked up the poem Invictus because I wanted to know more about it. It's in Latin, and like you said, unconquerable. And the poem was written in 1877, and it was first published in 1888. And the likelihood of finding a book published in 1888 is pretty tough unless you work at the Library of Congress. So I reached out to some of my colleagues in the rare book division, and sure enough, the library has a copy of this book. And I went over there yesterday, and I took some pictures for you guys of this book from 1888 that has the very first publication of this poem ever printed. And what's cool about it is that the first time it was published, it doesn't have a title. And so now I need to do that research or get Tybri to do that research to find out when it got its title. Because that's just pretty cool. And I love, like you said, how it still speaks to us, that the words of this poem really, really resonate. And they resonated with John Lewis, and they resonate with you. And there's something amazing about the timelessness of words that resonate. And the fact that you chose to write the book in verse that resonates, something's speaking there too. I just think it's marvelous.
It's really incredible. And,
Yeah.
and you know, when you think about the theme of the National Book Festival, books bring us together. I mean, you know, when William Ernest Henley was sitting down to write this, I'm sure he never could have imagined
No.
that an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old from Johnson City, Tennessee, would be meeting his hero and reading this poem as
Yeah.
John Lewis made his transition, and this young person following in the footsteps. And I mean, if that's not bringing us together, wow, incredible.
Love it.
Thank you
Yeah.
for this, Leanne.
Yeah, isn't
We
that
love
fun?
the Library of Congress.
I was going to say, and next time you come to the library, I've got a place for you to visit.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. So Tybri, this journey, I'm curious, as you got to know John Lewis, how did you develop a friendship with him? So you met him, and usually, you know, there are times we have opportunities to meet people who are, you know, impact our lives, but sometimes they're sort of in and out. But you developed a real relationship with him. What did that look like?
Well, after we met, you know, he asked me, "Do you want to help lead the march?" So I was in the front line.
Yeah, and this
With-
was in Selma on
yeah.
that day. Okay.
On the day that I met him, after, you know, we was crying and all that, he asked me, "Do you want to lead the march?" So, you know, I said, "Sure." So, you know, I was with him, Vice President Kamala Harris, and many more. And so we was marching, and, you know, he gave his words, touched me. And after that, oh, I can't let this go.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful, and I want to keep being with him.
Yeah.
So, at March for Our Lives at Atlanta, Georgia, for gun violence, I was with him and some other people, he spoke. And if you watch the clip, I was in behind holding a sign.
Let's go.
And a funny story, actually, is after, he talked, we started to march through Atlanta. And I stopped for a second, and my grandma took a picture, and you can see my face widening. And she asked me, what happened? And I said, I lost my shoe. So during a entire march,
You're barefoot.
I lost my shoe, and John Lewis stopped the whole march just to get my
I love
shoe
it.
back on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's great.
And so we marched on, and during that day that I met him, we was eating,
Yeah.
and for some reason I felt like I needed to fist bump the congressman.
Yeah. Yeah.
too. But he was just an amazing guy, and he taught me so much.
Yeah.
Being a good student, obviously getting in good trouble,
Yeah.
and just having courage.
Yeah. It's marvelous. It's marvelous. I've got, I'm sort of wanting to transition a little bit because I would like to sort of bring John Lewis's voice into our conversation a little. But before I do that, Andrea, did you want to say anything else about your motivation for writing the book or getting to know Ty Bree or, what has happened since?
Well, let me just say, I continue to be inspired by this young man. And, in the age and the day that we're living in, I believe that so many young people are really out there on the sidewalks and streets, holding those signs. And, one of my greatest gifts is, I live in New York City, so when I walk in the morning, to see signs in windows, that are clearly drawn by kids, because of the inventive spelling and the Dayglow crayon use. It's clear that these are, created by kids. And just hearing Ty Bree today, even if your shoe falls off, keep going.
Yeah, there's the title of a book waiting to
Right.
be written. Maybe one of these young people will write that book. I love it. I love it. But yeah, when I reached out to these two and we talked about, bringing John Lewis's voice into the conversation, my thinking behind that was I love that the back of the book has a great quote by John Lewis, and I'm thinking I'm going to let Ty Bree read this quote, and then we're going to start getting questions from all of you. Okay, so go for it.
Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble. Necessary trouble. By John Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice, very nice. Okay, questions from all of you. The mic is ready. Yeah, and it's important to use the microphone because our session is being recorded and we want to make sure that we get the question recorded. Excellent.
Do you have any advice for budding young activists?
No matter hold on, that was a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question. It is good.
Well, first of all, keep on fighting no matter what. Never give up, and always get in the way and get in good trouble. That's my advice.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice. Nice. Other questions?
Oh, here's one.
I see one coming.
What do you see for your future? What do you hope for your future?
Well, I have a scholarship to Benedict College right now, and thank you. I have 2 routes that I can go to. So if one doesn't work, I have another one. My 2 routes is being an athlete and obviously trying to get in Congress. Since I have the scholarship, I can go this route, and if it doesn't work for me, I can go to football.
Could you do both?
Yeah.
And what do you want to major in?
I have not thought about that yet, but I'm just going to try to focus on now, but that was a good question.
Thank
That's
you.
right. That's right. That's good. Yeah?
Hi, I'm a 3rd grade teacher from Illinois that serves underprivileged kids. What do you suggest I bring into the classroom to inspire them the way you were inspired?
Great question.
Well, you could bring my book, but
Well played.
you can, and you're a history teacher, right?
I'm a third grade teacher.
So you can bring maybe some Martin Luther King Jr., like a book from him, and get like a whole classroom to read a book together, and so they can start learning if you want them to also be involved.
Thank you.
Well,
You know, I want to mention too that Tybrie is a fellow author. He's an author in his own right. So Tybrie has written several books of his own, and yeah.
And Tybrie, how old are you now?
I am 14 years old,
Awesome.
in the 9th grade.
Awesome. Just awesome. Just awesome. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for sharing your experience with us. Tybrie, I'm wondering, has your experience affected your peers, your friends, your school itself, and if so, in what ways?
Good question, but I try to stay humble about it, so I don't really tell my friends. And if they know, I kind of just, I don't have a big head about it. I still think of everybody equal, and it has not affected my school, but I've got an invite to this club that's also trying to get in good trouble. So I'm in that club, and I just try to be humble, just like John Lewis.
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. You can move the mic, certainly. Yeah. There you go. Thanks.
Thank you for writing the story.
Thank you. Thank you for your shirt that says "Be kind."
Great. That's
I want to mention too just the artwork by Keith Henry Brown. Remarkable art. You probably know Keith Henry Brown and may not know you know him. His work is widely published in the New York Times. And I think he just did a beautiful job conveying, again, kind of the higher spiritual importance of what Tybrie has done and the friendship between the two.
Andrea, when you were writing, obviously other than interviewing Tybrie, can you talk a little bit about maybe the other research that you did or things that inspired you to write in verse as well?
Yes, okay. So they always say, writers read, so I read everything. And, I spent a lot of time talking to civil rights foot soldiers, many of whom, knew John Lewis. As folks may know, I was born in Washington, D.C. My father marched with King, knew John Lewis. My father advised several presidential administrations on fair labor practices. So a lot of my research started as when I was Tybrie's age at the dinner table, and then I went to a lot of libraries, and but I like really firsthand kind of research, and the verse narrative and the poetry comes out of kind of the oral tradition and speaking to people and hearing them speak about their experiences on the Edmund Pettus Bridge and marching, and that inspired the verse narrative.
any.
Do either of you have any ideas for young authors or any advice for them?
Well, I guess do your research. Always have somebody helping you to read over it or something. That's my advice. You probably have better.
Yeah, I would say read every day and write every day. And keep a notebook.
Thank you.
I love that this book came out of your observation of something. And I think that's something, all of us, we see amazing things happen a lot. And capturing that feeling into a book and sharing it with others like you've done is marvelous. And I love your story, Tybrie, and I love that you've written this story, Andrea. And again, these two will be signing copies of the book over in the book signing area between 12:30 and 1, and we are getting the sign that says wrap it up. So thank you all, thank you both. And we have one more question. I think I've got 30 seconds, yes?
Okay, thank you. It's a really short question. I wanted to know if you had any other heroes, and if so, if you just mentioned who they are.
That's a good question. Well, my other heroes.
It's okay to say your grandmothers.
Well, yes, I do want to be successful. Maybe a football player could be, I guess, Lawrence Taylor or Barry Sanders. Both are very good football players, and you've probably heard the name. But John Lewis has stayed with me throughout, and obviously I hope my grandmothers can be with me through the whole way of my journey. So.
It's awesome. Awesome. Thank you both. Thanks for being at the book festival, and thanks all of you for coming.